Hey everyone, it's 10 o'clock a.m., so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. Today's topic is going to be covering meetings and how to do meetings, everything around meetings in Teams and Outlook. You'll notice on the screen that we're trying out closed captioning here, so hopefully that's not too distracting, but hopefully it's helpful. Let's go ahead and get things started. So today we're covering, smart meetings in both Teams and Outlook. The focus will be on really Teams capabilities or the capabilities for meetings that Teams brings. But we're also going to start in Outlook, and I'm actually going to start the conversation there today. As you can see, this meeting is a little bit different if you haven't been on one of these before. It's a little bit different than like a standard Teams or Skype meeting. It's more of a one-way broadcast. And you can use the Q&A to interact with our production team. So my name is Adam. I'm on the federal customer success team for Microsoft. I focus on civilian agencies here and focus on Office 365 and Microsoft Teams. Also on the call today, we have Abby, John, and Shane who are backing me up and will be helping answer questions and jumping in from time to time. So the tool that we're using is actually called Live Events, and it's a little bit different than a standard Teams meeting. If you have a question, just use the Q&A to pop it in there. But basically, it's a little bit different. Like you can't come off mute or anything. You can just interact with us through the Q&A tool. So anyway, just a little bit of how the meeting will work today. This session is it's a training in a series of sessions that we have. I went ahead and, there's a little typo there, but went ahead and listed out the rest of the sessions for May. Forget this bottom line here. Went ahead and put out the rest of the sessions for May. So this is not like an introduction to Teams meeting, but we do have those every week. So you can see the getting started with Teams is kind of like a Teams 101 training. Maybe some of you have attended one of those before. Doing more with Teams is an intermediate training. So that's more of like advanced Teams capabilities, which is really great. And then today we're covering smart meetings. Next week we're covering third-party apps and general app integration, kind of Teams as a platform stuff. And then the week after that we're covering live events. In addition to that, you can see Abby actually posted a link for a point drive. So if you're interested in any of these sessions, we actually have them available on demand. So if you're really interested in live events, for instance, but the next session isn't coming up live until May 28th, you can actually go on that point drive and find that session if you're interested and watch it at your own pace. So anyway, I hope you can join any of these sessions coming up. So let's go ahead and get started with smart meetings. In Office 365, there's really two types of meetings. I kind of actually already touched on this a little bit. The first meetings are kind of this one over on the left, okay? These are the standard meetings that you'd have, Skype, Teams, doesn't really matter. They're really kind of set up in a similar ways. You can have up to 250 attendees. These are very peer-to-peer collaboration-based meetings, right? And these are what we're going to be focusing on today. So these are sort of the default meeting that you would set up with your teams for, weekly updates, daily updates, general calls with both your internal teams and external teams. You'll probably rely on these meetings, more than anything else. And they're very peer-to-peer, right? Anybody can come off mute, anybody can share their screen, present, but there are some options within there that help you as the organizer manage those meetings the way that you want to, and we're going to show you some of those today. The other type of meeting is, we're not going to cover this today, but this is what we're actually using now. It's called Live Events for Teams. And this allows you to broadcast out to up to 10,000 plus attendees. So this is much more of like an at-scale solution, a broadcast solution that you can use to reach a ton of people. And they're set up in a different way so that, because having 10,000 people coming off mute doesn't really work, right? So it's set up in a different way to facilitate those broader at-scale meetings. So we're going to focus on this left one over here today. Just know, though, that when you're setting up these meetings, the standard limit is 250 attendees. And then you probably don't want to get, it makes sense that it cuts off around that, because with more people than that, it might just get a little busy. So anyway, all right. So we spend a lot of our times in meetings, right? I'll tell you, at least in my experience, I spend a lot of times in meetings, and there's all different types, right? You have like one-on-one meetings and chats with people, maybe your boss, other people on your team, other people on other teams. You have team meetings, which is like more of a collaboration, group-based thing. You have very project-specific meetings. You know, there are training sessions like we're doing today, review sessions. There's a lot of different types of meetings that we have. And then all hands meetings. So anyway, so we're going to be covering some of these today, and we're going to really think about them in three broad categories, okay? And the three categories that I think of when I think of meetings are standalone and scheduled meetings. So these could be like, you know, quarterly all hands events, you know, interviews, you know, whatever, any kind of calls that you have. Ad hoc meetings that just kind of come up. Like, let's say you're working on someone, you need some help with something, and you might just hit somebody up and have a quick chat, right? And then there's project-based or group-based meetings. So those are for, you know, cross-team event coordination and collaboration. Maybe you have weekly syncs with your teams like we do on our team, and project-specific meetings and that kind of stuff. So anyway, so we're going to kind of frame the conversation today around those three. You know, one thing to think about when you're thinking about having a successful team meeting, it's more than just the actual meeting time that matters, right? So in order to have a successful meeting, there's really three things that we want to make sure that we do, that we need to do to make it successful. So first, there's any pre-meeting materials, then information that you need to share. Okay, so you want to share the agenda ahead of time. Maybe you have some documents, some pre-read documents that you want to send out to make the best use of your time. Ask people to like do some work ahead of time and then come prepared. Give people some homework, right? And then come prepared to meet and talk about it in real time. That kind of stuff, right? So there's the pre-meeting stuff, and of course there's the invite that you have to send out initially too. Then during the meeting, you want to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to have a successful meeting, right? You want to be able to see people, present information, and use different tools like maybe surveys and that kind of thing that you need just to make it work, and just to make a good use of your time together. And then afterwards, right, you have post-meeting materials. So typically you're going to have like action items and follow-ups from meetings, right? Maybe decisions were made that need to be recorded. So you want to make sure that you have that as well, the ability to easily reach out post-meeting with any action items and anything that's going on. And then especially for like weekly or, you know, recurring meetings of any kind, that's kind of the cycle that happens over and over again. You know, like you'll have like your weekly call, you have work ahead of time, you'll meet, you'll send any follow-ups, and then you'll meet again the next week you know, to go over those actions and meet again. So anyway, so when you think of the meetings, those are really the three. That's kind of the cycle that we think about. And just so you know, meetings should work in Teams, you know, across a number of devices. So in Teams and in Office 365 generally, you know, Outlook too, you know, meetings should just work across different devices. So whether you have the browser, so everything in Office 365 is accessible via browser, right? In Teams, you want to use, by the way, I think I'll cover this later, but Edge or Chrome are the two browsers that have full capabilities for meetings. So you don't want to use Firefox or Safari or Internet Explorer. You know, those aren't supported. Edge and Chrome are the two that are. So across devices, you can, you know, use browsers. I'd recommend those two browsers if you're using Teams, right? You can use your desktop client, like I'm using today. You can also use an app, so like a mobile app on your phone or an app on an iPad. It doesn't really matter how you access the underlying service. Meetings should just work across platforms, across devices, and across those three. So, you know, you can have 200 people in a meeting. You can have some people dialed in and not even using a client. You can have other people using the desktop client, other people using their mobile app on their phone because they're out on the go, and all of it just works. Like everybody's in there interacting with each other. With the one caveat being if you dial in, you can't participate in like screen sharing and that kind of thing. It's just audio. Okay, so let's go in kind of the first piece. Let's focus on Outlook. Well, how do you start a meeting? So hopefully you should have this Teams meeting icon here, plugin for Outlook, incorporated in your calendar. So if you go to Calendar and Outlook, hopefully that pops up at the top. If not, you just need to get it integrated into Outlook. So that's just something that you can do individually, or that maybe IT needs to push out. But that's going to be the easiest way to set up standalone meetings through Outlook, is that new Teams meeting button there. Okay. Once you click that, you'll see that it'll open up a new calendar request with this bridge. So this is really your bridge information. Everything that you need to know about like joining the meeting will be here. So you see there's this link, right here. That's the actual link to just, click and it runs and spins up. We're enabled here at Microsoft with call-in information. You may or may not see that depending on what license type you have in your organizations. But if you're enabled, you'll see an associated call-in number as well and a conference ID. And then you have also some additional options down here that we'll cover too. And really, it's as easy as clicking the link, on the mobile or on your desktop client, and then getting directly into the Teams experience. Okay. Yeah, and I kind of already covered this. So let's go into actually a little demo and just start playing around with it a little bit. So I have so I'm going to go through and just kind of show you. We're going to first start with Outlook. And here's like a standard meeting in Outlook, right? So all I did is I clicked new appointment. I went to my calendar. I clicked new appointment, and now I have a blank appointment, right, in Outlook. Okay. So this is the button up top that I was mentioning earlier, that Teams meeting. So all you do is click that, and you can do this. You can do it anyway. A couple of different ways using Outlook, but I'm just starting the calendar meeting here, and here is all my bridge information that pops up. Okay. So we're probably, most of you on the call are pretty familiar with going, with Outlook meetings. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but just to kind of quickly review, you want to title it. So let's say I'm doing, let's say we're doing a check-in, later on, and I'm going to do that with my coworker Abby. I can add anyone as required here and anyone optional here. You'll see why that's helpful here in a minute. We'll add Heather as optional. So it's nice too in Outlook, you can see right away that it also shows what their statuses are right now. So just kind of a nice little thing. What time? Let's say I want to schedule it today and I want to schedule it at 1 o'clock. But actually, I don't know if, when they're available, right? So the easiest way to do that is to actually go through and click this little scheduling assistant here, and you'll see what pops up is kind of a cool view that shows exactly what people are doing and when people are available. So this time looks, that time doesn't look great for Heather, but let's just say that it does. We go back here, pick the time. I type in any detail that I want here. And I'd fire this off, and then that will pop on a calendar request on their Outlook calendar with this join information here. They could click join now to join it. They could also call in. And then you see I have some options down here for meeting options as well. So let's explore that. So I click on meeting options. So Teams does this a little bit differently than Skype if you used Skype before, but it basically opens up the meeting options in a separate browser. Okay, so all I did is I hit Control, click that, and then this popped up. So pretty, you only have a couple options here, but they are very helpful to help you organize the meeting in the way that you want to. So first off is having a lobby or not. So this is basically a place that you'd send people to first, and then as the organizer, approve them into the meeting if you want to. So you have options here. You can have, by default, you don't have the lobby set up. So this everyone actually, who can bypass the lobby is how it's phrased. So if you have everyone set there, then there is no lobby, right? Or you can let people bypass the lobby that are in just your organization. So let's say I want to set up a meeting, I'm setting it up with customers and with my Microsoft colleagues. I could have them, all my Microsoft colleagues jump right in, but anyone from an outside organization I'd have to approve in. And in this selection here, it just adds trusted organizations. That's anything that, like from a security point of view, that you've whitelisted into your tenant. So like, let's say you have, you work closely with another government agency and you've whitelisted them in so you can all collaborate easily together in Office 365. Well, they could jump into. Okay, so that's the option there. I can always, I can have choose like callers bypass or not. I can choose to have announcements around it. And then this is the one that I typically use the most is selecting who can present in the meeting. So by default, everyone in a meeting is a presenter. Okay, so everybody in the meeting can present content and can really like manage the meeting. If I have a larger meeting, so let's say you have more than like, I don't know, even maybe 50 people or something, or whatever you want, especially if you're getting to larger numbers of people, you probably want to start with yourself as a presenter, with a small team as presenters, and then elevate people in the meeting as presenters as needed. So just know, you can select this. This will start the meeting like as you being the only presenter. But just know that in the actual meeting, you can also elevate people, and we'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. So anyway, here's the meeting. We fire it off, and then it pops up on our calendar. Okay, so actually, I'm not gonna send this one off, but then let's show next how we do this in Teams. And in Teams, it's going to be a very similar look and feel to what we just did in Outlook, just really using a different interface and doing it in a different way. So just know that you can set up these types of meetings both in Outlook and in Teams. It really doesn't matter which way you set them up when you're setting up like a standalone meeting, okay? And then we're gonna get to some other types of meetings here in a little bit too. So in Teams, let me show you how we do the exact same thing that we just did in Outlook in Teams, okay? So here's my Teams client. Here are all the teams that I'm a part of that I made chat on earlier. And then calendar now shows my calendar for my different, this is my calendar for the week. So one thing to know first is this is a mirror image of Exchange Online. So just know that this is not a separate calendar from your Outlook calendar. They're actually, it's the same underlying service. It's the same information. This is just a mirror of it. And then when you update one, then this should update just, a second later. So kind of I get a lot of questions around that about, hey, is this a separate thing? This is your same Outlook calendar. Now you're just viewing it in Teams. So to create a new meeting through your calendar in Teams, you can see up here, you have a couple different options. I actually use this Meet Now one a lot. What Meet Now does is you can just quickly, it spins up a meeting for you on the fly, and then you can add people to it manually if you'd like, or sometimes I use it just to like test out something. So anyway, that's what that Meet Now feature is. You'll see it just sort of spins it up really fast. I click join and it would pull me into a meeting with just myself. So that's what that does. New meeting though is how we set up a new meeting in Outlook. So here let's do a virtual lunch. We're doing really everything virtually these days, just to kind of catch up. And I want to do this with Deborah. Deborah and we chatted earlier and we thought it'd be fun to catch up and have lunch. So lunch hour 12 to 1. I could go in and see the scheduling assistant for us. It looks like actually Deborah is tentatively busy at 12. So maybe we can do.
I'm not that busy.
We'll do 12:30 to 1. We'll keep it short. We'll just, anyway. But you can see it's the same kind of capability here in Teams where you can scroll through, and it's really nice and easy to see. The harder blocks are busy. These, whatever you call those striped lines, those are tentative meetings, right? And then you can see and schedule around people as needed. So at this time, it shows that Deborah's free. If I were to click here, it would show that Deborah's busy. So especially when you have like 10 people on here or something, it's kind of just like a nice, easy way to just make sure you can schedule something at a time that works for everybody. So we'll schedule it then. And so here we go. So we set the meeting up. I can go to meeting options, very similar to what I just showed you earlier, right? Same look and feel. Who can bypass in the lobby? Who can present? So that's available right there as well. We have a Teams bridge, and now there's this cool option. So I can choose to join it now, or I can choose to chat with participants. So this here is a neat feature that wasn't available in Outlook, but is available in the Teams client. Okay, so when we go back to this kind of pre-meeting right here is what this chat with people helps with. Okay, so now I can go in, chat with participants, and then what it does is it opens up a virtual lunch IM basically. So it looks like any other chat would look like, but now it's a meeting chat. And I can say, hi, Deborah, scheduled for 12:30. Does that work for you? Or, you know, or she would also reply back to it, so that would tell me if it worked for her or not. But awesome. So this is so cool, right? So now we have a space already where we can interact with each other before the meeting. So this is great for pre-meeting stuff. Now, what else is really cool about this, and this is like full Teams features, right? So I can go in here and I can do bulleted lists. Like, let's say I just want to have an agenda, you know, on the fly. I don't want to I don't even want to make a document out of it. I just want to do this, like, you know, item 1, item 2, item 3. Let's cover this today. Thanks. Something like that, right? And we can, you know, and then we can always refer back to this because this is in the same meeting bridge that we're going to be using to actually chat. What else is cool here is you can add files. So if you see up here on top, a lot of those the meeting the IM capabilities that are built in into this view as well. So you can go and add files. Like, let's say I want to add I probably have something around. Whoops. Got a lot of stuff on. There we go. Anyway, I could add files here just by clicking this, right? Uploading from, let's do upload from my computer, desktop, and we'll do meeting agenda. Awesome. So already I have that set up. So meeting agenda, uploading that. Let's review this at lunch. That doesn't sound like a very fun lunch, but whatever. Okay, so meeting agenda's popped up now, and then you'll see if I go over to files, the meeting agenda is included as well. And if I click it, now we have full like capabilities for editing and co-authoring that we do in Teams directly in this file. So what's great about this is if there's like files that you want to review together, you know, you can upload them instead of sending them out on email. Like, that's just kind of an unnecessary step if you use Teams, right? Because you can upload them directly into Teams, and then you have it in Teams to work off of together. And then when you actually join and meet with your meeting, you know exactly which files you've been working off, and it's easy to access. So anyway, we have that, and then we have a third topic over here called meeting notes. This is actually uses like the underlying like wiki feature. If you use the wiki feature in Teams, if you create that, it basically creates like that wiki style of I don't know, the wiki, a wiki for the team to use for meeting notes. So what we'll use these for on recurring meetings, you can do like well, you could do this by topic, or you could do it by like, you know, meeting 1 and then create another section for, you know, next week's meeting, whatever. You can use these however you want, but it's a nice way to come back to notes that are also associated with this meeting. What's nice about this bridge is everybody who's invited to this has access to it, and if you're not invited, you don't know it exists, right? So it's a private meeting with a bunch of capabilities built in, and really no need to send files around via email and otherwise. You can just use the bridge to do it. So let's actually jump in and see what the meeting looks like. So cool. So this little join button up here allows us to do that. Like, let's say it's 12:30 and it's time for us to meet. we can go in. We'll also get a reminder via Outlook and that kind of stuff too. This popped up on our Outlook calendar. So that's something that I haven't mentioned. Even though I scheduled this in the calendar in Teams, it also popped up on my calendar in Outlook. So just to like show you that real fast. Well, anyway. Anyway, so it's in there whenever I set this thing up, sorry. Okay, so let's join. So, oh, cool. So it looks like Abby's already, or Deborah started the meeting. So you see this video meeting started 10:25 a.m. So maybe she started a couple minutes early. We're supposed to meet at like 10:30, let's say, or something. She started a couple minutes early. I see that pop up as a notification. I know that she's in there because she's in there right there. So let's go in. Okay, so this is the first thing to cover for meetings. This is what we internally at least call the powder room. This gets you set up for the meeting the way that you want to be set up. So instead of just clicking right through, it's actually worth taking a second and just kind of like talking about the options here, because if you configure yourself first before you join a meeting, you'll be able to start and join the meeting exactly the way that you want to, okay? So here are the options, right? I can do a number of things. One, I can set up my calendar. So, oh, I thought that was gonna, actually, this is good. So this calendar, video. I set up video, but it looks all blurry and stuff. So something's going on. So I don't have my right camera set up. Okay. Next thing I do is I can decide if I want to mute myself or not. Third, I can decide which devices I need to use. And because my camera isn't on, I obviously need to change that up. So if I click devices, you'll see I have a couple of different options here. And this is the issue. Okay, so I can change my speaker. I can change, that's what I'm talking to. I can change my microphone. And then I can also change my camera. Okay, so my camera right here, this is using, I have a webcam plugged in, but I actually want to use my laptop camera. So let's use Microsoft Camera Front. Cool. Hey everybody, and so then now that worked. So I'm getting myself set up the way that I want to set up. Let's say I don't want video at all, so let's turn that off. All right. Also, you have some options down here that are worth mentioning. You might not see all of these depending on how you're set up, but you can join with audio off. So this is really nice, right? If you're in a meeting in an actual room with a bunch of other people, or yeah, that's how I use it really, is if you're in a room with a bunch of other people, you know how like people join in and then everybody gets the feedback stuff going on? If you click this audio off, there's no chance that you will be the feedback person, right? You'll be completely like your audio will be completely turned off for the meeting. You won't be able to mess with that. But you'll be in the room with everybody else and you can participate in that way, right? So that's usually what I use for the audio off one. You can also join via phone. So a lot of times if I'm at a coffee shop or something and I'm working off my computer, but I actually want to talk via my phone, you can click that and it'll call and dial your phone. That has to be enabled in your tenant. But anyway, if you don't see it, it's a licensing thing. But if you're licensed for it, it's a really nice feature. And then you can also add a room, which is pretty cool. So if you get set up in your offices for Teams meetings, and you can actually add rooms to it, and it sort of just magically all like pops up and works. So anyway, so I'm getting set up. This is how I want to be. I'm good. I click join now, and now I can see that Deborah's in the meeting. Cool. So this is what the meeting sort of structure looks like. For those of you who maybe haven't seen, you see that we have this meeting bar underneath with a bunch of different options that we're going to cover here. But you see we have, we can see Deborah. If we had more people in here, they'd pop up in like kind of a 4 square. But we can see that we have one person in here, Deborah. If I hover over her, I can get some details from her. So like, let's say you're joining a meeting and there's someone in there that you don't work with a lot. Well, you can just sort of hover over and kind of get a quick sense of who they are if you're interested. All right, so let's go through some of the meeting options that we have. So in this little bar, so one, we can see the meeting's been going on for 4 minutes. I can turn my camera on or off again from here. I can mute myself or not. I can choose to share content. So sharing content's worth worth taking a second on. So there's a couple different ways that you can share content, okay? So this button here there allows you to toggle between sharing or not. And let's say I click share. So I'm using the web browser for this, so the client will look a little bit different, but the basic concepts are the same, okay? So you can choose to share content in a number of different ways. You can share content with your entire screen. So that's what I'm doing right now, meaning that anything that I pull over to the screen, you can see. And I have 3 screens set up at home. So, I can share any one of those 3 screens if I want. I can also choose to share specific applications. And what's nice about this is it only will show the application that you want to show and will not show any other like noise that happens on your desktop to participants. So like for instance, if you only have one screen that you're working off of and you're sharing content for just PowerPoint, and then someone emails you something and you have that email banner pop up, well, the participants in the meeting won't see that email banner, they'll only see the PowerPoint. So that's nice to just kind of control, one, to kind of control for sure what participants see. I think, yeah, so that's a nice feature. But second, it also reduces the broadband needed like quite a bit, because if you think about like when you share a screen like I'm sharing now, it's actually sharing like every pixel on this screen that's constantly changing. But if you're sharing a PowerPoint, it's basically like one load up to get the PowerPoint loaded, and then from there on out, it takes very, very little bandwidth for people to view it. So if bandwidth is an issue, if you're working in like low, areas with like low connectivity, then that's a really good option as well to help save you on some networking stuff there. And I can also share browsers and stuff. So anyway, you have a bunch of options. I can share all sorts of different stuff. Let's say I'll share. No, actually, I don't even want to share that. I think it's going to mess it up. So anyway, okay, but that's how you share. Then we have the ellipses over here, okay? So if you click the ellipses, there's a bunch of options that we have. One, I can bring those device settings back up. So that's the same settings that we saw in the powder room earlier. So like, let's say someone can't, and we get a ton of questions about this from people who are just starting to learn about meetings, right? Like, people who maybe don't have their setup, their headset set up and whatever. So this is usually just troubleshooting. What usually works is having them click here, click devices, going through and just making sure that these 3 are what they want them to be. I have a bunch of different options at home. I just want to make sure I'm using what I want to use, and that typically works, right? I can show the meeting notes. So you know how we set those meeting notes earlier? You can see those same meeting notes that I had created earlier now pop up on the side, kind of like an IM would. And we can add to this section and change it in real time, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so we can just take these notes on the side while everything else is going on. People are sharing content and all of that without ever leaving the meeting. So meeting notes are there. The meeting details, this just shows like the details from when the meeting was set up. It's kind of helpful, especially if you need like the call-in number. Here's a feature that is really nice. So again, this is something you have to be enabled for if you have phone PSTN, like phone enabled in Teams. Then what you can do is you can jump in here and have it call any number you want. And what's really cool about that is it'll call the number and it'll call and bring that number in as you. So instead of having like, you in the meeting and then, my random 812 number also there, and people are like, hey, who's the 812 number, right? Instead of that, I could just pop in my number here, and then it just pulls in my device, like my phone, but still only shows me as in the meeting because it's all, it's me. I can copy join info if I need to like send this to anybody, just say someone pings me or something and says, hey, I need to join that meeting. I could just quickly copy and paste it for them. And then there's the info below. Okay, so it shows meeting info there, which is nice. If I want to enter full screen, that just like is kind of a different view, just like, like enlarges the meeting view. I can exit that as well. Keypad I never really use, but this is if you needed to like dial a number out. Start recording. So this is how you record. So every meeting in Teams can be recorded. And when you record it, it actually records on the back end on stream, which I'm going to show here in a second. So actually, we're going to start the recording now, just for a couple minutes here. So now it's what we're doing in our meeting is recording on the back end. When we finish it, we'll show you how it looks, but it'll show up in our chat as a recording, which is a really, really nice feature. So basically, it makes it very easy for all the participants to know where it's recorded and to go and access it afterwards. And then turn off incoming video is a feature again. This is, I think, more something for bandwidth. Like if you have, a bunch of people in a meeting, they're all sharing video, which is awesome, right? It's really nice to see people's faces. But like, let's say that you're in, your bandwidth is just sort of struggling, or maybe you're paying for that. You can turn that off and reduce the bandwidth coming in quite a bit if you're interested. All right, so chat over here. If I click show conversation, so this is cool, right? So it shows the history of our conversation between Deborah and I that we had before. So this is, again, kind of coming back to that notion of the bridge being, all inclusive of everything that we need. The conversation that we had beforehand also shows up during the meeting, and it will also show up after the meeting. And I can go and reply in directly here. Right, and I have all the full capabilities that you have in Teams. We'll go with Winnie the Pooh. Love that guy. You have all the full capabilities that you have in Teams directly in here, right? Which is really nice. I mean, it just makes for a really nice experience. You can like each other's stuff and all that. So that's conversation, and that's just a great way to chat on the side while you're working together. And then we have show participants. So this is actually what I wanted to show you in terms of okay, so currently in the meeting, we have 2 people. I can invite other people to the meeting if I wanted to. Let's say I want to invite Bob. Just by calling and clicking, so Bob's unavailable. But what's cool is it tried to give him a call. Or let me see if I can do this. This actually might work because I'm also signed in as the admin. So you can see what it's doing is it's calling, trying to get a hold of other people and pull them in. And if they accept on their end, then they'll join, right? What else is cool about this is if I right click, okay, I have a couple different options. So it's just Deborah and I, but imagine we had 30 people in here or something. Well, one is you can pin people. So if you're interested, if Deborah is someone that I really am like she has her video up and I want to make sure I see her video, I can click that pin option, and now Deborah is pinned up in the meeting. So that she is most prominently displayed for me as the viewer. So that's kind of a cool feature. I can also, I could kick her out if I want to, because I'm the meeting organizer. She couldn't kick the organizer out, I don't think so. But I could kick her out. I could also make her an attendee. So this is, so this is what we talked about earlier. You can set this up ahead of time, or you can change this in the meeting. So now I have the ability to present, but Deborah actually does not. So this is nice if you have 200 people in a meeting or something, and you want to manage who can present, who can mute other people. This allows you to do that. And then I can also make her presenter back. Let's say, I make myself the only presenter at first, and I then want to add other people on as presenters in real time. I can manage that in real time. Okay, so let's stop the recording and end the meeting. Oh, this last button over here, right? End the meeting. Let's go ahead and do that. Sometimes the survey pops up afterwards and asks you about it. I'll quickly stop there. And guys on the call, any questions from the participants so far?
You are good to go.
Okay, quiet bunch. All good. All right, cool. So you can see in real time, right? So then we have kind of the final piece of our 3-piece meeting here, right? Is the post-meeting piece. So we've gone through the pre-meeting, we've gone through the in-meeting, and now post-meeting. So here, let's say we have some actions, right? So what I could do, I use this a lot, after actions, maybe we'll call it, hopefully we don't have too many from a lunch, but imagine this is a weekly meeting or a sync or something. Then we can start mentioning people, right? So okay, Deborah, please make, final edits. And then me, I'll do X, whatever. Send that off, fire that off as an action. Then, Deborah is mentioned on her end. She could do the same thing to me and I would be mentioned. And then if this is a reoccurring meeting, we would come back the next week. We'd use the same bridge. All the chat would be there from the previous meeting, and we'd have those actions also cemented there. This is what I was talking about in terms of the recording. So now you see this thing popped up. It said recorded by Diego, right? 3 minutes and 46 seconds. Now anybody can jump in here in the bridge and go and watch that meeting if they want. All you do is click it. It pops up. The underlying service it uses is called Stream, and I can watch this in, easy peasy. The other way you could view that, by the way, is your Office 365 portal. As I mentioned earlier, everything in Office 365 is available in your portal. Portal like office.com is really what you click, office.com or portal.office.com. Either way, you authenticate and it gets you here. Everything is available, all your files, all your teams, all your applications, everything is here, right? And everything is available via browser. Now, if I go to office.com and get authenticated in and I click Stream, if you have Stream enabled, this is think of it as your internal organization YouTube. It serves a very similar kind of function. It's a video repository for your organization. You can create like channels and you can create like playlists for people to watch, especially useful if you're doing like training and you have a series of trainings that you want to share with others. But anyway, I'm going to Stream. I'm signing as Diego right now. And I go to my content here and I go to my videos. And now you'll see is this virtual lunch that we just had that was 3 minutes and 37 seconds. I can access this now here, and I can also access this through our team channel. So it's actually being saved on Stream, and it's just sort of, I don't know what you call it, being projected here in Teams. But just so you know, that's where to find the original video. And then from here, you have some additional options with the video. Like you could actually trim it up. Like let's say we had 5 minutes in the beginning that we don't, it was just kind of waiting around. We could trim that off and cut that off. And we could, you have some other options here. You can share it, you can create a channel with it and stuff like that. So that's kind of another topic. Okay, so that's sort of the standard Teams meeting and how that would go. Okay. Let's go next to the next type of meeting, which is more around setting them up directly in Teams. So you have, this is a standalone meeting that can be set up through Outlook or through Teams. But let's say we want to actually set up a meeting in one of our Teams channels, right? So at this point, just a quick refresher on Teams. I'm sure most of you all already know this already, but these are all the different teams that I'm a part of. These are all different groups of people. The 2008 safety audit is a different group than the finance, which is a different group than this group, right? And then all the channels underneath each team are available to anybody in the team to work with. And this is just separate workspaces delineated by topics. So, every team has a general channel by default. And then there are other channels you can set up other channels for like different work streams. So like for the finance channel, we have one on budget monitoring and residential taxes and whatever. Now, what we can do is we can start meetings directly in channels as well. So what's handy about this is a couple of things. One is that so by default, everyone in the finance team has access to all of the channels, right? So if I set up a meeting in a channel, what I'm doing is I'm sending a signal that the budget monitoring team needs to meet. But anybody in that larger team, if they're interested, could hop on. They're kind of almost by default CC'd, like for awareness, like in a RACI chart, like awareness, like. Or inform anyway. Okay, so they kind of like they know what's happening, but they don't necessarily. They also know that they don't have to join, but they could. So anyway, so you set up in a channel, and then everyone in the team automatically has access to it. You can specifically invite certain people to it as well, and then you have all the full capabilities in Teams. I mean, this is really what makes it powerful. Is you have all the full capabilities in Teams to work with in your meeting. In your channel, right? So you can all like work off all of your channel stuff together. So, okay, so let's see how that could work. So one, I have this Meet Now feature down here at the bottom. So you see, like when you start a new conversation, you have all these different options. One is this Meet Now feature. This allows me to set up a meeting, right, on the fly. If I click this, I could say, impromptu stand up or something. Like, let's say I have something that I just want to chat with everybody about. Click Meet Now, and then boom, it would pull me in directly to a standard Teams meeting. In addition, I could also choose this schedule a meeting option. And this would be if I wanted to set up a meeting for a later date. Okay, so now you see what's different here. The only difference between the way that we set this meeting up before and in using Teams and this one is this little box over here. Okay, so this box over here says select a channel to meet in. And now because I'm setting this up through a channel, that's listed. And anyone else that I wanted to really highlight and make sure that they got a specific invite for, I could put them in there. But the entire channel would be aware of it because it would post up. I'll just show you what it looks like. It posts up as a meeting for that channel. So here it is. It's scheduled. It now pops up on my calendar as well. So I now have this meeting impromptu stand up. If I go to calendar, right there, right? So it just popped up on my calendar as well. It popped up on the other team members' calendars also. And Deborah, because I added her in there as an attendee specifically, Deborah got a notification on it. Everyone else, the calendar just sort of pops up and they see it, it just pops up on their calendar because they're part of the team. But Deborah got a specific like email request to join it. So that's how that works. Kind of get a lot of questions around that. So now, just like any other meeting, I can join it via the calendar directly, join, or I can go back to my channel and click it and join here. Okay. And then when I join, actually, Deborah, do you mind, Abby, do you mind clicking that and joining it on your side?
Yeah, let me just get there 1 second.
Yeah, sure. So what's cool too is we'll show you in a second kind of what it looks like. But let's say that I'm working in Teams, I'm doing other stuff. When she joins, you'll see a little notification pop up in Teams that a meeting is going on, and then that way I just know that like something is happening that I might be interested to hop in and check out.
Adam, do you mind mentioning Deborah really quick?
Yeah.
I think I just found it. Never mind. We're good. Okay, I am on. I just clicked it.
Cool.
I am joining. Sorry if you can hear my dogs. They're fighting right now.
No worries. Awesome. So cool. How cool is that, right? So see what just happened is, so I see this little arrow or the little video camera over here shows me that a meeting is happening. And this changes from this sort of look to this look. I don't know how to describe that exactly, but it kind of expands a little bit, right? And then I can see that she's in there. I have one person in there. If there was like 10 people in there, they'd all be listed, right? I can join and just like any other meeting, get myself set up initially, and then we're good to go. Okay, so these are just different ways to meet with people in a kind of a more organic way, I guess you could say, than if you schedule meetings in 30-minute increments, throughout the day, like I think I've been sort of taught to do, right? I think a lot of us have been sort of taught to do. But anyway, these are other ways to meet. You can just meet on the fly, just set a stand up, like so instead of anyway. So other ways to do that. Any questions around channel meetings? And then once we're in that meeting, right, then we all can just like refer to all the different tabs and everything that we have in the team to work off together. Because we're meeting in the channel, we can use the channel. If we could set up a planner in the channel, right? So if we had like, where do I have a plan set up? I've got a bunch of planners set up in here somewhere. Anyway, we could use those. Yeah, here we go. We could like meet in the meeting. We could bring the planner up. We could present our screen and all be working off a planner in real time together in this same general channel with the team plan. And then all of it there is like consolidated in one place. Now, what else is cool about this type of meeting is if I go back, maybe I can find an example here. You see how there's like a meeting here, and I replied there. Like typically what you'll see is all of the chat that happens in the meeting in real time will be displayed in a reply thread to that meeting. So anyway, I'm having a hard time kind of finding one. I'm sure there's one in here, but anyway, but you can kind of see, like, so for this utility tax rates, you know, all the chat that we would have during the meeting would just show up as a threaded reply. So it just sort of keeps everything tidy. So everything related to this meeting, all the chat is right there, and then I can also use all of the channel tools as well. So any questions around channel meetings? Because it's a slightly different concept. You know, at the end of the day, you can basically use this little button down here to set up a meeting either now or in the future. And you can also go to calendar when you're creating a new meeting and set everything else up as we did before. But just the one piece that's different is adding a channel in here on the top right. And also you can search for channels just so, you know, like search finance or something. Anyway, it's just an easy way to find channels, especially if you have a ton of teams. So any questions around channel meetings and that type of session?
We do have a little bit of just a quieter audience today. You're just so clearly explaining it.
All right. Hey, the last type of meeting that I want to quickly show, and this is pretty familiar to what you've probably seen in Skype or whatever, but you can also just generally call out to people directly from chat. Okay, so you can have group chats. So just to kind of quickly review here from like this is something we would cover in the Teams fundamentals. But basically, you can have a chat. You can also that's not a group chat. Lunch Squad is a group chat. So that's 4 people in this team. Got Bob, Deborah, Diego, and the admin. What we did is we named it the Lunch Squad. Yeah, really like that poo thing. Named it the Lunch Squad, and then this is a group chat that we all have just to kind of keep in touch. Okay, so this is something that we did in a previous training, so we just used this right. So what if I wanted, instead of I could again schedule a meeting with this group this way, and it would add everybody else up there, and I could schedule that in the future. But let's say we're all just chatting and there's like a lot of IMs going on. It's just easier to talk. We just want to talk for a couple minutes. It's probably easier than just like putting in a bunch of IMs over and over. Then you can just go up here, click audio call or video call, right? And that's the video call one. And set up a chat that way, or a meeting that way. So that's really nice too for impromptu, kind of on the fly meetings as needed.
And Adam, we do have a question.
Yeah.
It says, how do you add team members to a team? I created a channel but couldn't find their names when I created a meeting in the calendar via the channel.
That's a good question. Yeah. So you go over here to the ellipses on the team. You do have to be an owner to add them, but anybody can request somebody to a meeting. Just an owner is the one that approves them. The ellipses on the side of the team, manage team, and it shows you who the owners are and who the members are. And to add a member, you just click there and find them in the gal, and they'll show up. So good question though, because if you're setting up a channel meeting, like a Teams meeting in a team, in a channel, you can only add people to that are in the team. So those are really for internal team discussions, right? Not for external discussions. For external discussions, you want to set up a standalone meeting, either doing this or through Outlook. That's a good question. Okay, it's pretty much the content that we had for you all today. Would love to hear any questions that you have. I guess just to quickly recap it, to jump, I'll bring up my Teams again, to jump into a meeting on the fly, like an ad hoc meeting, which would be, sort of chat, live stream, you can do it a couple different ways. You can do it from the chat function for just a quick meeting. You can go to Teams and do the Meet Now feature, which works really well. Yeah, those are probably the easiest to use if you're using Teams and want to do an impromptu meeting. For a standalone meeting, you can use Outlook or Calendar in Teams, set them up, use the calendaring assistant and all that, get yourself set up, and then invite external people or just internal people as a standalone meeting as well. And then the third is, of course, the channel meeting, which you go in here and you can directly set that up either now or later on, and then set that up in the channel for people to meet within the team. So those are kind of, in summary, the three different types of meetings. And why you might want to use each. So would love to hear any questions that you all have, if you have them.
Yep, okay, we've got a few. The first one is there a programmatic way to generate a meeting through HTML? And they're thinking of like a portal for external people to request or set up a meeting. And I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so, / I don't know. I don't know.
But maybe touch a little bit on the external user experience when you send a Teams meeting.
Yeah, that's a good call. Okay, yeah, so when you set up a meeting, you're setting up the meeting in your own, tenant, if you think about that, right? Like you're setting up this meeting for an external audience through your, so for me, it'd be our Microsoft tenant. When I invite guests to that meeting, they might have limited features because of that, and it just depends on how your tools are configured at the end of the day. It just depends how your organizations have managed it. But just so you know, if you invite external people to standalone meetings, that's something you can absolutely do, right? Just like in Skype or anything else. They just might not, like, for instance, on chats, they might not be able to like your comments. They might not be able to upload a document. They might not be able to download a document. It just kind of depends how your meeting, how your environment is set up. So just know that they might not have full capabilities because of how it's set up. Okay, so that's one. And then if you're invited to someone else's meeting and you realize you can't download stuff and upload stuff, with another agency, then that's why. It's just set up with those security precautions in place. Anything else you'd want to add on that, Abby?
Nope, that sounded great. Then we've got another question. In Outlook, you can create a meeting using an email conversation or conversation thread. Can you do this when you set up a meeting in Teams?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to do that would be through Outlook still. And, the thread then would be, where'd my Outlook thing go? You basically go through the steps to set up that meeting through, I probably won't be here, but yes, so if some of you don't know what this is, it's hard for me to show. Maybe I can do it over here. But basically on a thread, you can schedule a meeting from a thread. So let's do this. So let's do this one. There we go. Awesome. Reply all by meeting. So what this does is it sets up a thread based, a meeting request based on the thread, right? So basically, suggestion would be to do that in Outlook as you have before, but just then, once you get to this stage, then just click this Join Teams meeting. It'll pop this on top. So same process as in with Outlook, but just use the Teams meeting button to schedule it.
Okay. And do we have transcript capability in live events for Teams meetings?
Yeah, that's a popular one. It's coming to GCC very soon. So it depends which organization you're at, right? Our government cloud environments are slightly different than our commercial cloud environments, and that's because of the extra restrictions that are in place in the government space. But that is a capability that's rolling out very soon in the coming months. So it'll be there soon.
Okay, that looks like we are pretty good on questions.
Okay. Well, hey, I'll just end it. You know, if there's anything else, we'll hang on for like another minute or two. But I hope you found the session helpful. And if you have any last minute questions, throw them in there. If not, I just want to highlight again some of the other sessions that are coming up. We have sessions Tuesday through Thursday scheduled through the end of May. And please attend any of those if you're interested. So with that, we'll close out and just say thank you for joining and hope you found it helpful. And please join another one if interested. Thanks, everyone.